some hands. Okay, English. Everybody's comfortable with English? Okay. So yeah, we'll start with the toppers one. I'll continue in English. If anything in Telugu also, I will be ready to clarify those doubts in the end. So yeah, just want to know how many of you have attempted prelims till now? Like just a show of hands. Not attempted anything, first timers. Okay. People who've at least given one mains have broad idea about the exam. Anybody who's given mains? Okay. Just again, wanted to know how many of you are comfortable with Telugu? Okay, I still see some hands. Okay, English. Everybody's comfortable with English? Okay. So yeah, we'll start with the toppers talk. I'll continue in English. If anything in Telugu also, I will be ready to clarify those doubts in the end. The session will be such that I might talk for 30-35 minutes, give you a broad idea, and post that we'll have a question answer session and you can ask me any of the questions that you have. So a brief about me. Before that, I want to start with certain disclosures. So first things, I am standing here on the basis of LUCK, luck. That's it. Absolutely luck. What differentiates me from you is only luck. That's it. And this is the biggest disclosure because a lot of you come into this examination. Anni anukuni vastam ee examination ki, but at the end of the day, it's luck ante. 3 attempts, 3 services tarvata em cheppedi. 1 నుంచి 1000 వరకు లేకపోతే నువ్వు ప్రిలిమ్స్ క్లియర్ చేస్తున్నావో చేయట్లేదు, you're clearing your mains or not, everything is luck at the end of the day. So that's the biggest disclosure. You're coming here to listen to me, so you should know that this is luck. The second point here is I am not here to promote any coaching center. I am here to tell you what I have done, what has worked for me. So nothing here is promotion of any coaching center, their test series or anything. Third point, every topper stock is very subjective. వాళ్ళకి వర్క్ అయింది మీకు వర్క్ అవుతుందని ఏమీ గ్యారంటీ లేదు అసలు. సో ఏది చెప్పినా ప్లీజ్ టేక్ ఇట్ విత్ అ పించ్ ఆఫ్ సాల్ట్. I'm not sure it will work for you. What worked for me in 2020 will probably not work for me when I write 2024. So please accept the level of subjectivity when I give you a statement. And third thing is this exam is an examination of elimination. It's not of selection. I am not good that I'm standing here. I am less bad ante at the end of the day. Okay. So with these disclosures, I want to go ahead and give you a brief introduction. So can I use the board here? Yeah, so brief introduction. I am Chandana Jannavi. I'm from Hyderabad. So broadly, I've even lived in the US before this. Tarvata we moved to India and I started my school in Bharati Vidya Bhavan's Jubilee Hills. And post that I went to Ramaiah for 11th and 12th. And after that I did engineering from BIT Mesra. That was through JEE mains. And post that I went to do my MBA. I mean UPSC, I'm just telling this because I want to make sure that UPSC was not something that happened immediately for me. It was through a lot of steps, good steps, wrong steps, everything. So I did MBA. After that I took up a job. That is the point where I decided, okay, I should give this examination. So motivation source ante, my grandfather served in the Indian Administrative Service. So I had some motivation in the background, but I never thought I was capable of it. So, and I didn't even clear JEE Advanced. I had a bad score. So we come with the notion that a competitive examination can validate us in some sense. I didn't clear it, and if I didn't clear it, I didn't think I would clear UPSC. So you can see my point of telling this is we think that, some examination will validate us and it didn't. So I had to take different steps, and after MBA, after CAT, somewhere some self-confidence that maybe I can try. So yeah, my journey was BE. This was through JEE mains, and then I took CAT. I had, can I erase this by any chance? Thank you. So CAT, I had 96.83. So again, that's not a great score. So I was very lucky to get an MBA seat, and I even had a GRE score of 329. So you can think at this point that I'm trying to be a show off, but I want to say positives from here. Positives was this gave me a lot of confidence and consistency that I can take any examination and figure out to do something, not everything, something. But the negative here was I'm all over the place. I don't have idea of what I'm doing. So all over the place, scattered, that's what you can call me at this point. But MBA kind of, Okavelo, it helped me see what I can expect from a corporate job. What can you expect from a corporate job? Normally, it is salary. At the end of the day, you go back home and that's it. There is no idea what your work is doing and what will you do at the end of the day. Just take home salary. That didn't help for me. So yes, after MBA, I worked for 1 year, 14 months exactly with Deloitte. And this is the time, these 14 months was when I started my preparation. Again, here a big disclosure. Post this, I gave 2020 attempt, and 2020 is, according to me, a luck attempt. Why was it luck? If somebody has seen 2020, the examination of June postponed to October. So we had 3 additional months. That is when I resigned from my job and decided, let me at least try this attempt. If I don't clear, I'll go back to my corporate job. So luck has it that I cleared this attempt. I went to mains interview and I was at exactly the cutoff, 944, but I was not in the main list. When they announced the main list, my name was not there. So again, that was the point where I thought, okay, this is done. I never planned for more than 1 attempt. So 2021, I didn't even write because I never planned for it. But seeing my name at cutoff, I got into the reserve list. They declare a second list after the first list, which is after 2-3 months based on who take the services and so on. So I got into the reserve list and that's when I decided I will give 1 more attempt. So that's when I gave my 2022 attempt. And this was the time when I really prepared because 2020 was half as hard. 2022 was when I got 969. I was the last rank IRS IT income tax, last closing rank UR category. And again, with training, I gave 2023 and even super luck. So this time I get a 1008 and it's AIR 50 only. Like I don't have my service yet and I shouldn't be saying anything. This is my rank. So this is briefly about me. So the reason I am telling you this is so that you understand my background as a person. That this is what I did and broadly like this shows that there's been a lot of to and fro. I mean, if I had to make a column of what you shouldn't be doing in this preparation, what you shouldn't do, don't be hasty. Don't be hasty. Please pre-plan. I don't want any of you to do mistakes that I did. Like nobody should be missing 2021 attempt. Nobody should come with this mindset that 1 attempt in and out. You never know. Statistically speaking, you need 3 attempts to at least clear the examination in total. So yeah, can we clear the entire screen? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that comes to the second part. Now third part is about my scores. So in I still don't have my 2023 scores, but 2020 in prelims, I had 108 in GS and 105 in my 2022. CSAT, I had 103 and 112. 2023, my guess is I'll be 80, 70. This shows the significant drop that I had. If anything, I would want all of you to see the significant jump, and I'm someone who didn't study at all for CSAT. Both my attempts, it has been just walking in and giving. So if I've had this significant jump, I believe it is much more difficult for any aspirant. I believe it's an equal levelizer, but still it'll be significantly difficult. If anybody is planning 2024, the first thing you look out for is CSAT. GS, prelims, GS, this the cutoff is 75. So the level of toughness is certainly increasing. That is about prelims. And seeing my main scores, paper-wise breakup, essay, my goal is that you shouldn't remember these numbers, you should see a trend. And then you can ask me about what did I do specifically with respect to that trend. Essay, GS1, GS2, 3, 4, yeah, and my optional is sociology and PT. In my first year, I had a 128. I had a 79 in GS1, GS2 106, GS3 91, GS4 100, Socio 1 139, and 141 here, and PT was 160. So this was 944. And next year I had an 85 in SA, 106 in GS1, and 114 in GS2, 79 in GS3, 117 in GS4, Socio 134, and 144 in Socio 2, 119 interview. This gets me to 969. And this attempt, it's 116 here, 87 GS1, 120 in GS2, 91 in GS3, 129 in GS4, 145 in Socio 1, 138 in this, and 182 in interview. And this is 1008. So I'm sure all of you can see a trend. I don't care about these marks. The trend here is, this has been my weak area, and this is one area I believe the averages are low. So this is not something that you can make a trend on, because the averages are low this year. Here it's been an increasing trend. Here again I think this is constant. This year the averages were on a lower side. This again the trend is increasing. These are consistent trends. Here you see a major jump. This and this. If I had to highlight what I did differently, and for this attempt very specifically, SA 116 was what worked for me. So broadly is about the numbers. Okay, I'll come to the third part then. The third part will be about prelims. Okay, so I'm sure all of you have heard from a lot of toppers what they've done for prelims. Standard books. So I have not added anything different. It's what everybody has done. So Polity Lakshmikant, apart from that PT 365, if you have more time, if you have revised it 3 times or 4 times, then go for the year before also, because current affairs can be a little on the other end. When you talk about current affairs, it can be 24 months. So when you do one PT 365, you're covering 12 months. So if you're done 3-4 revisions, I am not talking about once, if you've done 3-4 revisions, then go for the next. I just wanted to briefly show, I'll be circulating. So normally after PT 365, any 365, I used to read it 4-5 times. 4-5 times, mark everything. I normally have post-its through which I mark. After 4 revisions, I mark what I'm not able to remember. In the end, in the very end, last 30-40 days, I would make 1-pager notes. This is my 1-pager notes for Art 365, which is of 30-45 pages. So at the end of the day, I am not going into the coaching, I'm not going to the examination hall with 30-40 pages trying to look at it. For me, this is 1 page. About every fact, I'm not able to remember after 4-5 revisions also. And I would look at it and that's it. So the only intent of doing this is to reduce the mental stress. The stress when you see 45-50 pages of revision versus 1 page, which is something that you can just cross by. So this is something that people can just have a look at. This is just 1 page that I do for prelims. So this is a PT 365. Similar way I do for mains 365. Like I will not note down everything. They are not notes. They are points I am not able to remember. For example, parliamentary productivity. If it said 77% of the bills have been passed without discussion, something like that. That one number is what I'll note down. I do not need every other content. Those are words that you should avoid. So my notes are not specifically short notes. They are points I am not able to remember. So I'm not going to circulate the notes as such, because everybody will have something that you are not able to remember, which will be very specific to you. So coming to the third part, which is about what did I do for prelims. This is my book list in general. So PT 365s, I used to make 1-pager notes for everything. 2 pagers if it's economy, because it's 100 pages. But everything else, it's 1 page. Only facts you're not able to remember and you think can come in the examination. Third, ancient and medieval history, old NCRTs. Please revise them 2-3 times. The process is read it once. Second time you highlight. Third time you put a post-it. Fourth time you put a side post-it. And the 5th time, you pick out facts you're not able to remember, write it on a page, revise them and go to examination. So if you're able to do it for all the books I've mentioned here, you're mostly sorted with respect to confidence. Okay. Modern history, I did Spectrum majorly, but NCERT is a good book. It gives you a view on a story, because Spectrum is something which is chapter wise. It's not like a story, but NCERT gives you a story wise view. So you should have a broad view from the first chapter about what happens from the time of death of Aurangzeb till the end. So that's a good story on how you can remember it. So that environment, again, Shankar IAS, I skipped the middle part, which is biodiversity, species names and everything. That is just for a glance. The starting concepts like food chain, food web, these are some things that you can read 2-3 times. Coming to science and tech, I used to follow the Hindu. Every Sunday they have a science and tech article. So I used to note down what I can't remember. Normally the topics are AI, IoT, nanotechnology and so on. So you can check some of those topics and make small notes. Please do not make bulky notes. You need 1 word, 2 words and things that you're not able to remember. Economics, Ramesh Singh, I think, is a very bulky book. I read it very selectively. I didn't read everything, not the plans. Plans are something that become very important from mains perspective. So be very selective when you read it. And I think for economy, one thing you can do is focus on the newspaper. So RBI reports, if it's in the newspaper, there might be an article on it. Please read it. Please see what is repo rate, reverse repo rate, questions related to that, application of those concepts. So something more on the current affairs side will help you with economics. Current affairs, like I said, PT 365, multiple revisions. And I used to give a lot of mocks. So my strategy for prelims has been mocks. So all the 3 attempts, I gave a lot of mocks. First attempt, I gave 100 mocks. Second attempt, I gave 100 mocks. Last attempt, I gave 40 mocks because the result came 1 week to prelims. So I gave a lot of mocks. The strategy for a mock is you give an examination within 2 hours. Go back, as in after 1-2 hours, take the paper, see what have you like put for a question and what is the correct answer, and make an error log out of it. So I have an error log here. You could just have a look. Yeah. So this is Vision Abhyas test and this is my error log. So error log is something where I note down a question that has gone wrong and what is the fact that I got wrong. So at the end of the day, if you do it for 100 tests like this, you'll end up revising every concept that has gone wrong. 100 papers, 30 questions. That's almost a revision of, somebody could do the mental math and tell me. I want to know how attentive you are. 100 papers, 30 mistakes. How many facts have I revised? So this is just for people to have a look. It is not bulky. Like they can give you a huge paragraph. Your point of view is to write down one fact that you're missing. So this is what I did. So both the attempts, I have thorough error logs of 30 papers. I used to go with these 30 papers to my GS examination, look at them. And again, I have 3 revisions in different color pens. So every color pen is one different revision I have done. So you can do this for your mocks. This will help you remember better. So this is one thing. If you think this can't be done, please do an online notes also. Like you can do it on OneNote, make it polity, science and tech and everything. Note down your mistakes there, revise it multiple times. That's the point. So even to date, I have like a booklet where I have done my mocks, and normally all my mocks, like I remember them. Like where did I do it? Why did I complete my error log? And I recommend an Excel sheet. Can I get back to the screen? Yeah. So for prelims, you need to make an Excel sheet, write the test, date, questions attempted, correct and wrong, and score. Your basic point of view is from test 1 to 30. If you give 30 tests, this accuracy ratio, which is how many you're getting correct to this, must improve. That will tell you that you're on the right path to prelims. That is the main goal. So if you're here at like 40% accuracy or something, your goal is to reach at least 55-60%. Today, most toppers, if cutoff is around 85, I'm expecting most people are attempting somewhere around 88 to 90. So you can figure out people are somewhere in the ballpark of 60 to 65% accuracy, that's it. So your goal is to reach here, and the point of an Excel sheet is it will tell you the optimum amount of questions you need to attempt also. This will give you an average, long-term average, which will tell you how many questions are good for you. It can be 80, 81, 82, 90. It depends on you and your accuracy rate. Your entire focus should be on questions, correct, how many you're getting correct, and make a column to write, I have made my error log. Or at least, I know my mistakes and I've corrected them. They're not going to repeat. And if you see multiple mistakes from the same topic, for example, Panchayati Raj, over 5 tests, you see one question going wrong. So next day, you get up, the first thing you do is you revise it. And you should make sure that you're not getting a mistake from that area. So two broad trends is, where are you getting your mistakes, and is your accuracy rate improving? This is my prelim strategy. I can take questions on prelims if anybody has anything right now. Any broad questions on prelims? Okay. So CSAT according to me, again, if I were to do it, I'm telling you from my perspective, if I were to write 2024, my focus would be take 5 or 6 different coaching centers, put it for a Sunday, every Sunday from today. How many weeks do we have for prelims? It's on 16 June. How many weekends does that make? 5, 6? 6. Okay. 6 weekends, I would give 6 papers from 6 different coachings, not from the same coaching, just to analyze, am I able to do 66 marks? And am I only focusing on English or only focusing on maths? Because that is a terrible strategy. It will never work in the main exam. So am I able to tackle questions? Am I at least getting to 80? Because 66 is a tough score. You know, UPSC key, you never know. So your goal should be to do 6 papers and see if you're getting here. If in the first 3 papers itself you realize you're not getting here, then you need material, and you have material available. People are putting in notes on numbers, systems and everything. You could have a look on where you're making mistakes and pick that and read. Your goal is, if you give the last paper in May end, you should get an 80, 85, and you will know you're through for CSAT. So that will be my strategy for prelims. Coming to the next thing about mains. Yeah. So for mains, in my first attempt, I didn't have notes. So if I had to tell you what not to do, that is that. You need to have your notes ready before you sit for mains. Those 100 days are not days when you make your notes. Okay, so this is something that I learned from my mistake. But one good thing in all my 3 attempts was, I used to have flashcards of syllabus. This is GS 1, 2, 3 optional syllabus. I'm sure you know the syllabus by heart anyway. Do you people know by heart the syllabus of GS 1, 2, 3, 4? Okay, so make it a point that when you sit for mains, you should know syllabus by heart. Not even one word should be different. So what worked for me here was, I made these flashcards in 2020. I'm glad they're in a good form even now. And I would look at the syllabus every day in the morning. Every day once in the morning, and try to recollect at the end of the day, do I remember my syllabus? And I used to mark whatever I did. For example, this is a mark of what I have finished in a day. Or this is what I ticked, something that I have completed. So in this way, I used to remember syllabus. I think this is the first step for anybody doing their mains, because if you know your syllabus, you will know how to read your newspaper. The second thing, you will know better on where questions are coming and how they are coming. For example, if I had to take GS2. GS2 has a topic which mentions role of NGO, SAG, various groups, institutions and other stakeholders. Every year there is a question from this. If you know your syllabus, you'll at least broadly prepare an outline. You hardly need 100 words on each topic to be able to write something. If not everything, you need 100 words. So the day you mug up the syllabus, you're sure on what to write, at least what to write. On that you can build upon. So this is the first thing. Does anybody want to see these? I'm sure you have syllabus with you. Just pass it on. This is just broadly syllabus and marking, that's it. And you should keep looking at it. It's not once, twice, thrice. You should be able to mug up your entire syllabus. Optional, GS 1, 2, 3, 4. Is there anybody who can at least tell me GS 4 syllabus? It's hardly 7 lines. Is there anyone here? Okay. At least 1 or 2 topics, if not everything. Roll off? Okay. One topic I would have remembered was emotional intelligence if I was sitting here. Emotional intelligence is a syllabus line from GS4. So broadly the point is, you need to mug up your syllabus for mains. So if you finish that, the second thing here was, the second thing for me in mains was to make my own notes. I couldn't read from toppers' notes, so I wanted to make my own notes. So here, so this is book list, just in case, and there is nothing different, mostly what all toppers have done. I made my notes in my first attempt in those 100 days, because I was never sure of clearing prelims in one go. So I started my mains notes then, and I think it's a big mistake. You shouldn't be doing that. you should be making your notes before May. If you are giving your prelims this year, your notes should be done by May. But even if it's not done, you still have time. Once you clear prelims, you start on 16th and keep making your notes in a small way. You wouldn't be making notes very heftily, 100 words on each part of the syllabus. Each part of the syllabus, 100 words. So what is 100 words? It should be broadly like this, one-pager notes on each topic, in each topic of the syllabus. That's it. So if you're able to do that, you will still be able to clear prelims, clear mains, but you need to build on it. Like, I think you need a lot of luck even after making those one-pager notes, but that is what worked for me. This is broadly what I used in GS1 and GS2 and GS3 and 4. So GS1 art and culture, again, what everybody has done, which is NCRTs. You read 11th and 12th and then Nitin Sangwan. We see questions coming in from ancient history and medieval history also. So please revise that before going in for mains. Modern history, again, spectrum. Here, the way you read this will be different because analytical questions. What are questions that are coming in from modern history point of view? This time we had a question on compare Gandhi and Rabindranath Tagore. So that was a question that's coming in from modern history perspective. What was their perspective and how was it different? It's a comparison. So you need to think from an analytical point of view. So spectrum will give you a base, but your understanding above and beyond that will be how you make your notes. So please go through past year. Everything here is to go through past year question papers also. Then world history. See, world history and post-independent India are topics you need to take hardly 5 hours each. You shouldn't be spending 5 days on it. 5 hours, see last 5-year questions, what have they asked? For example, post-independent India, we had a question in 2022. The question was, talk about state reorganization. What were the factors that led to that? So your idea should be, how do I write a general answer to it? My idea is not to be able to write everything. Like, where do I mention it started with State Reorganization Act? You might know all of this, but the goal is, can you write a generalist answer? That these were the factors. Linguistic reasons was one reason, or partition was one reason, or things like that. So you should be able to mention points. So can you write a generalist answer? If you can't write, then spend 5 hours on it. But world history and post-independent India are what I think are not needed from a point of view of the exam. Then next, society. Society, I went from sociology optional, so I didn't study. But seeing the questions that are coming in, I recommend people to broadly know what is happening. So this year we had a question on marriage. What are the trends in marriage? Or what are the trends in family? What is the impact on child rearing? So these are questions that you should follow newspapers in general to get a broad idea. Then geography 11th and 12th NCRTs is the base. But please go through previous year questions. One thing that I rely on geography is half page I fill up with a map. In these copies, I used to even note down points from other topper copies. Like this test, once it's uploaded, after it's marked, there are topper copies on Forum or Vision IAS, wherever. And I used to note down points from their copies that I didn't think of. So at the end of the day, when I was normally like finishing my last minute short notes, I used to add points from here. So this is just about examination. Coming to GS2. Okay, GS2 mostly has been Vision VAM material. You have VAM, which is topic wise, governance, social justice, points about poverty, hunger, everything in the syllabus. There is already Vision value added material. My point is, please mark what is important. Make a last minute short note if you can. Otherwise, please just read what you have marked in it at the end of the day. And what is giving me marks? Like I improved my score from 106 to 120 this year. So there, what improved was, I used a lot of fundamental rights, fundamental duties, DPSPs. Apart from that, I've started quoting proper case studies like Supreme Court cases, High Court cases. And these are all from news. Like this year, there were 2 questions. One is mention case laws about gender justice. So these are like very direct questions on what are Supreme Court decisions on gender justice. So please make notes on this also. You need all the case laws. You need 3-4 per topic. Gender justice 3-4. You need 4 on environment. What is the recent judgment? Has anybody followed news? Supreme Court has declared something about environment. Right. Right to, yeah, it's environment is right to life under Article 21 now. So you mention that. Like you need to know that there's a case law. Like you need to know who was that judgment based on. Rajasthan, there is a case on Great Indian Bustard. What is that case called? It's called Ranjit Singh versus Union of India. So these are case laws that you make a mention in your notes and please write them. You don't need 100, but if you know 2-3, please write them freely. As told in this case, right to life includes right to clean environment. Right to life includes right against the effects of climate change. Please mention them in your answers. That is the way of scoring marks. For polity, articles, fundamental rights, fundamental duties, DPSPs, and SDGs. SDGs on women empowerment, or be it sanitation, policy. Governance, you need to be able to mention skill development, education, and health. What are SDGs? Specific goals. Please go down into the narrow of goals. Everybody is now writing 3, 4 and everything. Please go down into the bottom of things. For example, under women empowerment, what are the goals? The goals are to give them rights, to ensure that TFR is below, that they get all the rights of whatever is needed for their freedom, empowerment of education and so on. So please go down into 3.3, 3.2, what are the goals? Please make note of them for only 3, 4. Women, sanitation, health, skill development, clean energy. So please make down those points. Coming to governance again, please know what are the schemes. What is the most main scheme that is running broadly? Anybody knows? A scheme that has been in the newspaper whole 1 month. It was launched very recently in March. Har Ghar. No, Har Ghar Tiranga is an old scheme. Solar energy. Yeah, so Har Ghar, it's Suryodaya Yojana, Har Ghar Muft Bijli. Yeah. So this is a scheme that's in the news. And if you are writing mains this year, you need to mention it. Because what is the idea of it? The idea of it is India is promoting clean energy. India is promoting energy where everybody has access and everybody is creating their own energy and storing that energy and providing it to grid. So some of these are something that are in the news so much that you should use it in your answers. So coming to international relations, again, international relations this year, you already know what is in the news. Anybody who's not even studying for mains knows what is happening. So when that happens, you need to be able to quote it. For example, what is India saying about anything that is happening? Ukraine, be it Israel, anywhere. Our stand is we believe in rule-based order. We believe in rule of law, international rule of law. So these are certain words that you end up using in your answers in IR, whatever question comes. Analyze India's point of view. So India stands for, we stand for humanitarian concern. And here one point you'll have to mention, which is Article 51. What does it stand for from Indian point of view? That we promote. So any answer in IR, you should be able to write Article 51. That coming from our constitutional point of view, Article 51, I believe that India will always stand for rule-based order. India will always stand for the best. Okay. So in that concern, please think about it. Like you do not need to remember too much content, but utilize the content that you already know. 51 is something I believe everybody knows here. So in the answer, you should be able to put it to international relations, even if it looks like a polity part. So GS2, my way was mostly case laws, SDGs, FR, FD, DPSPs, articles, every article possible. And GS3, coming to GS3, I believe you need solid data points for economy, like budget, economic survey. This year we even have a white paper on the economy, which was last 10-year analysis, trends on what has changed. So you need to know data points and utilize those facts in your answers. For example, from budget. So what was the main thing in the budget this year? If anybody had to pick one point. This was even asked in the interview to a lot of people. What is one point that you think stands in our budget? It is 11.1% increase in our capital expenditure to 11.1 lakh crores. That is the main point. It's made in a number such that it reflects the change and reflects a trend, both at the same time. So you should be able to use that in any economy answer. That what is our economy doing different? Investing in capital expenditure. It's a point that I utilize everywhere. My point is, when you think some points from the budget, you should be using it across any paper. Even in GS2, I might state that today we are going towards more capital expenditure. You should be able to use it across every paper. So please pick data points that you think are important. For example, budget talks about how much of DBT amount has been given to people. How much is the money that we have spent through PM Kisan? How many farmers have been reached? So please pick those numbers, remember at least 5, 6, use it in intro and conclusion, and you are sure to get a half or 1 mark more than others. It shows that you remember the data point and you consider it important. For example, what is the proportion of fertilizers and what is the ideal proportion? NPK, does anybody know here? I'm sorry, I look like a quiz teacher at this point, but it helps me keep this engaging. So what is the ratio? What is the ratio that is appropriate? 4:3:1 if I'm not wrong. Okay. I have to remember my facts. But what is the ratio that is being used now? Do you know that? It's heavily tilted towards high urea, which means N and P are at a higher rate than K. Okay. So I'm just stating that some of these facts were given better in that book. So that's something that I used. So today even I don't remember that number, which tells that you need repeated revisions to remember that number. So yeah, majority of agriculture topics is where I covered. I picked data points and I have used them in any answer. At the end of the day, I was able to use them in any answer. So 20-25 data points in agriculture. For example, there is a word called feminization of agriculture. If you're using it, what is the proportion of women who at least have a piece of land in India? So that number is around somewhere around 13%. Who at least have something. I'm not talking about huge tracts of land, but something. That's as per data point. So please also mention sources from where they're getting data points. Some of these data points can be from NFHS survey. Some of them can be from time use surveys. Please mention that also. In the bracket or as per time use survey, so and so is the percentage of employment here or percentage of worker population. Please mention the source. It adds to your authenticity. This is a paper of numbers. GS3's entire paper of numbers. My scores have not improved because I have not been able to do too much with numbers, but I think somebody with good memory can utilize this paper well and score marks. Even with disaster management, you need to be able to track numbers. What, for example, how many volcanoes, like Down to Earth magazine, for example, releases climate change externalities. This month had certain number of externalities, the number. So some of those Down to Earth, as per Down to Earth magazine, we've seen 7 externalities. Or some Iceland volcano burst or something like that. Please remember the names. This year we had a question in GS3 which was about dam bursts, dam failures, and name 4 dam failures or 2 dam failures if I'm not wrong. So you need to be able to remember. Can anybody randomly remember what are dam failures we've seen in recent past? Kaleshwaram is not technically dam failure. We've seen construction issues there. So yeah, I remember from my exam point of view, suddenly I remembered Koyna Dam. And you know Koyna Dam, where it's mentioned in 11th NCERT. Koyna Dam failure, it comes in chapter 2 of 11th textbook. So some of these are very, like how many ever times you revise, that's a point that you pick from your memory. So I wrote Koyna Dam. So that was an issue and it's mentioned in some page. If you go back to geography, you'll see that. So kind of think from that perspective that your revisions will help you generate content. Coming to security I did only vision, value added material. That is more than enough. But please follow the trends. What are the trends? Broad trends you should know. Last 4-5 years, we've seen Agniveer scheme. Or we have seen, we now have a chief of defense staff. Or we are seeing things playing out, the trends that are changing. We are now calling it more than a 2.5 front war. We are talking about cyber warfare. So some trends, and please make down content on it. Like for example, Government of India through CERT has announced that so and so many number of cyber attacks have happened. Please pick those data points. This paper is all about data points. That paper is all about case laws. That paper is about diagrams according to me. Modern history also, I have mentioned some diagrams. For example, when we talk about 1857, what are the places where things happened? Can you name 5 places? Meerut, yes. Yeah, Jhansi. So some of these, then when you're able to name those places, instead of write them, please make a map and please name those. You know it's mostly in the North India, you don't even need to make big India map. Please just point them and that shows that you're filling your paper, you're saving 1-2 minutes in your entire answer sheet and showing that you're able to think differently from other people. You're not mentioning those places. So any answer you see on 1857, please be able to make a map. So that is about diagrams mostly. GS1 is about how well can you utilize maps, diagrams and everything. GS2 is case laws and SDGs. This is about data points from different sources. So that is broadly about GS3. GS4 according to me is one paper where you need to invest the least time, but you need to practice a lot more. If you read for 3-4 hours, you'll be able to cover the syllabus here, but you need at least 40 hours of practice. 40 hours, if 30 hours is almost translated to 10 tests, 42 hours then. So that is the number of tests you need to give for GS4 because one, it is extremely lengthy paper. Almost half the people who walk out of the examination haven't filled the paper. The paper is that difficult. In the sense, you have 6 case studies, each has 4 papers to fill. This is the only book sheet. If the rest have around 50-55, this is a book sheet that has 60 pages, 62 pages to fill. So this is the lengthiest of everything. So I recommend that you practice more tests. That is a way for this. And one thing is to see topper copies. These are 2 topper copies. Vishakha Yadav ma'am, everybody knows Vishakha Yadav ma'am, and Divya Mishra ma'am. Both of their copies show how to present. Vishakha Yadav ma'am's paper is about how to present an ethics answer. What is being asked. And Divya Mishra ma'am's paper is about how do you quote. How do you quote something that you already know. If there is a question, which is an ethics case study, you already know 5-6 quotes of Mahatma Gandhi. Everybody knows. Can you tell me one Mahatma Gandhi quote? I'll ask somebody randomly, okay? Anybody wants to raise their hand or should I just randomly point? Whole world blind. Okay, good. Any other quote? Yeah. So see, I'm sure a lot of you people can give me more than 4-5 quotes. The idea is that you're able to use it in an answer. It won't look very direct to you, but in a random case study, as said by Gandhi, I believe this is the idea. So Gandhi's ideas are what? To stand for non-violence, to stand for peace, to stand for a society which is united. So some of these you should be able to quote. As said by Gandhi, I believe this idea, or as he said so and so statement. So if you're able to collect it for 3-4 people, like not just Gandhi, if you're able to show it for 3-4 people, be it even Mother Teresa, or for that matter, Nelson Mandela. So pick 3-4 people, remember 3-4 quotes and utilize it across the paper. Please be able to utilize it. Or something like you're following Nobel Peace Prize, for example. Every year there is a new person. So you pick a quote from there. Kailash Satyarthi, for example. He has Bachpan Bachao Andolan. So you're able to use it. So make good examples and good quotes. And you don't need to remember too much. Take one A4 size sheet and please keep writing. Whatever you see in news and you think this is an example. Recently, I think there was a railway constable who saved somebody who was on a platform. That's an example you'll quote. From him, what are we learning? We are learning selflessness, importance of service. So pick the most simple of examples, not something very difficult. As by Mr., if you remember his name. We see Tulsi Gowda, somebody who planted so many saplings. Some name, Padma Shri names, who have done so much for the society. Somebody who has saved tribals. There was a doctor who was serving somebody in the Andamans. So please pick names like that and be able to write it. It shows that you're somebody who is reflecting on the society and people are doing good and you take inspiration from them. And also there is an important part here which is philosophy in ethics. For philosophy, pick 5-6 thinkers and please make short notes on them. Again, not lengthy notes. 5 thinkers, their major ideas, which is you already know Mahatma Gandhi. Apart from that, 4-5 people and make short notes. And be able to write them across the paper, anywhere. Even in the first question, I should be able to quote some thinker that so and so has said that this is important. Utilitarianism, for example. You should be able to write it. Greatest good for the greatest number. You should be able to quote it. Like, yes, this thinker has said so and so. As per this thinker, I believe so and so. So please utilize GS4 in that manner. So this is quotes, thinkers, utilize Gandhiji. GS3 is all about data points. That is about case laws. That is about diagrams. And coming to essay is one paper you've seen my trends. My trend is unpredictable. So I should be one person who shouldn't be talking about this here. But broadly, something that I did for this attempt was take topo copies. I read the same essay 10-15 times. And I made a mind map of my essay. So this is an essay that is written by Sahitya ma'am. She is IPS of last year. I wanted to see what did she cover. What this topic, for example, is if one has seen further than others, it is by standing upon the shoulders of giants. So what did she cover? So first she covered why should we think that this is the case. So when you're analyzing an essay, your idea is to ask so many questions on it and cover it in different points of view. So first question here would be, why is this correct? Is this correct or not? That's our first question. So when you see it, the first question is why. So I listed down some reasons. So when you say one has not seen further than others, it's by standing upon the shoulder of giants. So let's analyze it, for example. Could a Newton or Einstein have happened if whatever in Europe didn't happen, if it didn't see a dark age and then a period of enlightenment? I hope history optional people are here. There's no one? Okay, so Einstein or for that matter Stephen Hawking, they didn't happen out of a random trend. It was something that they built upon. They built upon a society which was ready to question, which was ready to accept. Otherwise, before that, what were we seeing? We were seeing trends of people who didn't give much about science. They had their own ideas. And after that, a revolution of sorts came where people started believing in ideas. So, did Einstein happen by himself? No. He stood on the shoulders of so many more scientists who came before him. And now a lot more scientists who are winning Nobel Prizes today are standing upon the works of Einstein. So, that's just an analysis. So, is this true? Yes. It's just not science. It's even in society today. Today, do we stand like a democratic society by itself? No. Where did it start? Why do we talk about French Revolution first? Do we talk about French Revolution first? I am seeing clueless faces. Do we talk about French Revolution when we think about democratic societies? Yeah. So, everything is not happening on its own. We are standing on something that has already happened. And we keep improving from there. So, that was a question on why. So, what is the insight? The second part is, what are we learning from this quote? The quote is teaching us that we need to be humble and honest at an individual level. We need to accept the efforts of everybody else for us to rise to a particular level. That is the insight that this topic gives us. And what are the benefits of seeing this? Yeah, so the benefits of seeing this perspective is you're recognizing the efforts of everybody. Recognizing the efforts of every different person in society. It's just not administrators today. We have so many scientists who are contributing in their own way. We have a lot of people who are in the law, people who are in policy making, who are not administrators by itself, who are serving in the corporates. So everybody together is making a contribution. At the end of the day, it's seeing very holistically. Third thing is counter idea. Is this always true? Have we not seen people who have spoken of revolution? Think like, from example, Karl Marx. He didn't see anything that was happening, but he proposed an extreme counter idea. He said, I don't want to get into the nitty-gritties of what he said, but he said something that is completely different from the times of when he was living. So there is a counter idea also. This is not a statement that is always true. So UPSC wants you to even consider that a statement it gives is not completely always true, that there is a counter idea to what it's saying. And some examples, and what is the way forward? How do we inculcate this humbleness in people? How do we inculcate togetherness in a society? So this is like a mind map of how she wrote an essay. This is not my essay, this is her essay. So this is just for something for people to see. How did she think on this essay? So I did this for at least 20-25 essays where I read her essay or I read Vikram Grewal's essay. This time Vikram Grewal sir's essay was direct question. I don't remember which essay was it. But yeah, his question, like somebody who read his essay, they were able to write very well because he's already given his view. So some of these topper copies, this is what I did. I'm not sure this will work for everyone. This is something that somebody suggested to me to be able to make mind maps to see how did the other person think and to be able to replicate 5-10% of it, and you'll see a jump in marks, and that's what happened for me. So apart from Indian Express, I used to read Hindu and Indian Express only explained parts, not the editorials or anything, just the explained, because they were only facts. So you could pick that into your answer at any point. And PD 365, Main 365, I showed you how I made my notes. And this is broadly for my optional also. So this is one page of one topic of my optional. If I give it to a first timer, they will not make any sense of it. But this is after at least 10-15 revisions of my main notes. And this, I have 10 pages like this with which I go to my exam. I look at them and I'm able to know what is, so the yellow color here is what are words I'm not able to remember even in my last iteration. So I look at only these words. I do not look about the rest of the sheet. So this is something that I suggest people to have for their optional, 10-15 pages at the maximum. So sociology, I did an online course, and content enrichment, we have a lot of topper answer sheets and topper notes. I refer to these notes, you can refer to other notes also. And I did test series, I wrote 8 tests for optional every year. And for GS, I used to write at least 28 tests. So I used to come down to 38-40 tests for every attempt. So I gave 3 attempts, 40 tests every time. And I believe first and second, please give sectionals. It will help you revise first. Like you pick international relations, you complete the sectional. You pick social justice, complete the entire, so society and social justice. I think that's what Vision has. So pick sectionals and do it. When you come to second and third, when you're fairly okay with your syllabus, give only full length tests at different coachings. My scores were okay. I got a 427 this year. I think the topper got around 450s. So I think I did decently well. So that is about mains. So yeah, we'll take questions for mains and prelims. Yeah. So there are 2 answers to this. You will still get marks without quoting other thinkers. But as you go into more attempts, like first attempt I quoted only the standard thinkers and I still got a 280. As I improved my attempts, I quoted more thinkers because I remember the initial ones. I'll be able to write without remembering. So that is when you can keep adding, but your marks don't drastically change unless you're able to write like very different content that nobody's able to produce. So that is very difficult. It's ultimately the 80-20 rule. So I think first step for you is to stick to those 8-9 thinkers and use them across the subject. You should have that flexibility. You should be able to remember. If you're done with that, then go for 2-3 thinkers. Don't go at 9 at one essence. 2-3 per topic. Slowly increase as you increase the number of attempts. So that is my suggestion to you. Anybody else? Yeah. Negative marking in prelims. That's why I said mocks. So make a Excel sheet. Like I believe in an Excel sheet because it will give you a better trend. see how many you're getting correct and how many you're getting wrong and how much are you actually losing. When you see the wrong, it will tell you how much is the negative marks that you're losing. If you're making 10 mistakes, how much are you losing broadly? 10 into minus 2 by 3. I'm asking you only. How much is it? Okay, so broadly, what I'm telling you is make a sheet like that and see where you're averaging out. The expectation is by the end of 30 tests, you should be at the bare minimum. The idea is that because no topper can avoid it. Because I have seen my own marks. I used to get at least 20 marks. Like I used to lose 20 marks. That means what? Around 30 questions. 30 questions going wrong. So which is like I'm attempting around 90, getting 60 right. And I'm more or less comfortable with that. I will qualify prelims. So please come to your optimum. Your optimum score where you're losing the least possible marks. That is why I was considering Excel sheet because it'll give you an average of 30 tests. So that is one way of minimizing. The second is please see a subject. Like everybody is not strong in modern history. Everybody is not strong in environment. See what is that one area where you're losing your maximum marks. And that is where when you go into your mains prelims examination, try to avoid taking guessing in that question. You know your accuracy in polity is good. Please take a guess. But if your accuracy in environment is not good, consider not taking that guess. So that is one way of optimizing it. "45 days macro plan." It again depends on you. Like, what is your attempt? Like, is this your first? You gave 2 attempts. So you're broadly comfortable with syllabus. You have read all the books once. So for you, then it will be like you give every mock test, like you wake up and 9 to whatever is the time, 9:30 to what, 11:30 is the exam time. In that specific time, please give that test. In that time, you give the test, and immediately after that, you make your error log or find out what are the mistakes. The second part of the day, focus on improving those areas. Like you go back to that very specific area where you made a mistake and see why that mistake happened. You do it, and I think you should stop doing mocks around June 1st because you'll have 16 days. Stop it at that point and then revise whatever error logs. By then you would have finished what? At least 35 tests if you do it every day. Assuming even if you skip 5 days, 30 mocks. 30 mocks, please revise those error logs and I think you will be sorted. Yeah, I think there are 2 questions. Somebody is speaking from here. Yeah. This is a tricky question. Nobody really knows an answer to it. But the problem about, I'm telling you the problem and the positive. Positive, it should only be one part of your essay. Your essay should show whatever, everything, polity, economy, everything. So you should be able to explain that point very simply. Like if I'm saying Karl Marx, I don't think I'll be able to give it in a paragraph, what he has said, because he said so much. So okay, if you can do it, please go ahead and do it. But I think broadly, I haven't seen too many people go that route because it's very difficult. So we don't know about marking, so that's why I'm not able to give you a very concrete answer there. So it depends on your comfortability. Do mocks and see if you get positive reviews, please go ahead and do it. See, I took it based on, I didn't look back. That was my core notes for all 3 attempts. So you can build on it. You can read newspapers, even for sociology. Whoever is sociology optional, please also read newspaper. You'll get a lot of content from there also. Examples of what is happening. I think last year there was an incident of sologamy. Somebody who was marrying themselves. That is a word that you end up using in sociology. Like this is a trend or something. This is something that is happening in the society today. This has never happened before. So something like that. Please read newspapers from sociology point of view. And that is similar for many options except anthropology. I don't know how you will pick news articles very specific to that, but PSIR, sociology, public administration, please read newspapers from your option point of view also. Okay, so for me, 100 days, I made a plan that I'm going to write more tests and write and read less apart from that. So I had a strict time that 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock is my mock time. I will write a mock, whatever mock. And I think I wrote in those 100 days 45 mocks. Okay, so morning I used to make my notes, which were normally like this, like a flashcard. In general, it was like a flashcard. This is of Sanskrit. This is my language paper. So I used to make flashcards like this, and in the second half, whatever content I read, I used to write that in my answer. So that was the idea. So the good thing about a first attempter is everything is fresh in your mind. Like you don't need like a second or third timer who's going into the paper to revise so much. Everything that you have read is a first time. So the advantage of a first timer is that. So that is what worked for me. I gave 45 marks. So that means one test every other day. even if not every day. And every day was answer writing. 2 to 5 was a slot I used to write answers. Good, bad, ugly was a different thing. And every day night before I slept, I used to see a topper copy just to see what have they done different. It used to be Divya Mishra ma'am's copy because that year she was a topper. Then Vishakha Yadav ma'am's copy, even Srishti Deshmukh ma'am's copy. Everybody, some random topper's copy. My idea was not to copy their answers. My idea was to see what are they doing different in page management. You need to be able to fill a page. In the starting, a problem for a first timer sitting for mains is they're not able to fill a page. So how do you write big? Or how do you draw a big diagram? How do you make a big mind map? How do you fill those pages? So I think that was a strategy I used. I got a 784. So I think people can do much better than that. I've seen people who've gone up to 820, 30s also in the first attempt. So that is what I did. Okay, and these are very complicated questions for me also. But first, coming to your point of view, I think I wanted to talk about it after I was done with my strategy, which was about mental health, and I'll talk about my own journey for mental health. This has not been easy for me also. I remember, I think I touched my peak weight of 85 kgs. Like that was just pure stress, not sleeping, and I was not even eating that much. So getting to that point, and suddenly when you look back, like it's been 3 months, 3-4 months, and I'm suddenly 85. So it impacts your mental health, and not only mental health, even physical health for that matter. And then you start avoiding going out because you're just not comfortable with how you look. There's a lot of points there, and I had to deal with a lot of these issues. And even when reserve list happened, I told you about 944 cutoff, right? That year was not in the main list, and we didn't get mark sheets immediately. So for a matter of fact, that was a big failure for me. I didn't see it as anything except failure, and I also had a lot of issue being motivated to even think of another attempt. So in these times, you need a solid hobby. So for me, I've had music as a solid hobby. So few days when you face such situation, be ready to take a day off. So you need to be able to study in such a manner that if a situation were to come where you're feeling you're just not going to be able to do it, you should be able to take a break. So if you're doing every day, suppose 7 hours, you should be able to do certain days 7.5 hours, because there might be one day when you'll not be able to study. So I was able to do that. So hobbies, having good hobbies. Second is having very solid, stable friends who are able to tell you that, see, this is a problem with you. Like you're thinking too much about this. You need to be able to tell your friends. They are not an UPSC journey, but you should be able to tell them, this is something that I'm facing. So I think these are two things that work for me. So I recommend that you have a very good hobby, like go walk. I believe that you should take a lot of walks, talk to a couple of friends, talk to your parents. You might not have to tell them the entire journey, but be comfortable to tell them. The second question was? Okay, so revisions will depend on you. So like I said, for me at least 4 or 5 revisions. So I used to, like I said, I used to make a paper, read it multiple times, mark it, and every paper I knew that there was 30% I was not able to remember, for example. So I needed 4 or 5 revisions. It will depend on you. Like first time you write it, second time you reread it and think about how much you're not able to remember, like a percentage. Then you come back a third time. So you iterate it based on how much you're able to remember. That will depend on your entire memory capacity. So I think optimal is around 4 or 5 at least. Above and beyond will reflect in your answers and everything else. And your answer was distractions. Okay, so this is again very person specific. So I had an app called Yulpumta, YEOLPUMTA. I think it's South Korean, if I'm not wrong. It's an app that tracks the number of hours that you study. Okay, so for me that was motivation, because after 30-40 days, when you think I am not going to study, I am done with this, when you look back on 40 days, 8-10 hours you're studying, suddenly you feel, okay, I can do a 41st day, I have done 40 days. So when you come to 300 days, that itself gives you a big motivation. I can't break a streak here, or something like that. So think about ways that can help you here. Like, can you make a big chart in your room and you write, today I have studied so and so many hours, if that works. Or an app works, or you make a WhatsApp group with 3 friends and you put the number of hours each of you have studied. I'm not saying this is the best of best parameter. Number of hours is never a parameter. I'm suggesting some way that can help you. So this will depend on you. So these are certain ways that I can recommend. Anyone else? I complete the last part then, and I'll take the last few questions then. So yeah, current affairs, broadly current affairs was this for me, which was Indian Express. I recommend that all of you don't have to read every article in the explained part of it, but read certain articles which you can relate to the syllabus. Like for example, Uniform Civil Code. That was happening in Uttarakhand. That's a syllabus point of view that is very important. It's in polity. You'll be able to use it. From society point of view, what is the impact of live-in relationships? So please correlate it to the syllabus and you'll be able to make a lot of sense of current affairs. And for people who will be writing mains, your current affairs is of those 100 days, which is primary importance. Please read the newspapers. Even if you're reading PT mains 365, please read current affairs of those days, those 100 days. And yeah, so answer writing. So for answer writing, I think the most optimum time is you've covered all the textbooks once. Lakshmikant, Spectrum, Shankar, Science and Tech broadly, you've covered 4-5 months you've studied, start writing answers. And when you're writing answers, the idea is not that you give a brilliant answer. I don't even think the topper of this year can give you a brilliant answer for any question. That's not the idea. The idea is that you are able to express yourself. If the question is asking you, fundamental rights are being infringed upon by the decisions of the government. For example, that's a question. So you should be able to reflect based on examples that are in the newspaper. Yes, it is being infringed upon. No, it is not being infringed upon. We have Supreme Court, we have guidelines, we have a policy. You should be able to give examples to all of this. And then the end you quote that based on our fundamental rights and reasonable restrictions, that we are able to go forward in a way that we protect citizens' rights and at the same time we protect our own national security and integrity of our country. Something like that. So broad idea is of structure. The structure. Yeah, so broadly for any 10 marker, like I'm just giving, so broadly for a 10 marker, okay. So 10 marker, the idea is there are 2 parts to a question, any 10 marker. So the first is intro, and if you've seen my copies, you see that I make a big box here and write some 5 points. My idea is to just get 5, I don't need more than that. The second part is no while, like I make a connector saying while that might be true, there are other case scenarios also. And this, which is again 5 points. And then conclusion, which is normally way forward. Like how do we go forward from this point? This is for 10 markers. For 15 markers, the same thing, but there'll be a third point of view also, which is instead of intro and this, then there'll be a way forward which will have 5 points. Like for example, education. What is way forward for education? Like you make a big box here and then write 5 points. So that is like 15 points. These 15 points are enough to kind of make it an above average answer. 15 points for a 15 marker and 10 points for a 10 marker. That was my way of filling a paper. And this was what I used in everything. Even in my optional, this was my strategy to make a box. So this ensured that I remember what I was writing and why I was writing it. Being able to correlate. Like the problem is when you start writing an answer, when you write it as points, you write 1, you write 2 and you forget what is 3. Like you forget why did you start writing this. So with this, I always used to come back to this box. So that is something that worked for me. You could consider other topper copies and see what works for them and see it. And current affairs done, this is done. Motivation. Yeah, so for motivation, there's one more thing. You could look at some of the videos of toppers. Now, I think there's something called Josh Talks, which is giving a lot of stories of people. So you can take inspiration from a story that matches yours. Something like that. So it depends. I'm not suggesting it for everyone, but it might be the case. But again, I'm not promoting them. I'm just saying that a lot of people have taken some inspiration out of some story stating, okay, this person has a similar background like me, has seen similar economic troubles like me, or seen similar mental health issues like me, something like that. Somebody you're able to correlate to very fast. And I don't think, I haven't watched their things, but I've seen it from a couple of friends that they have. And okay, interview. Does anybody want to know about interview, or is something that you could keep it away for end? I'll just take a show of hands if you want. Okay. Okay. Okay, that's like half the people want to know. Okay, so broadly, interview is personality test, and the expectation is they already have some set parameters on which they want to judge you, which is how aware are you, what is your general compassion, or do you have officer-like qualities, which is are you crisp, and how is your personality in general while dealing with anything. Are you somebody who goes into stress or anything? So there are 7-8 parameters. So for my interview this year, so yeah, so these are the parameters, which is they are being judged on mental caliber, intellectual qualities, social traits, interest in current affairs, mental alertness, balance of judgment, clear and logical exposition, variety and depth of interest, ability for social cohesion, intellectual and moral integrity. These are the parameters you're being judged. So for this, you need to prepare in such a way that one, your detailed application form is covered, that you're able to answer questions that come from there. The second is current affairs, that you're able to answer any question that's being asked to you, like a future officer would answer. Be it international relations, what do you think is India's stand? And you should be able to put a view that yes, India's stand is this. Polity, what do you think about Uniform Civil Code? Do you think it should be applied across India? You should have your own view. Nobody's asking the government's view and your view, which should be very logical. For example, if somebody asked me, should live-in relationships be in Uniform Civil Code? I would say no. And I would give 3 reasons for it. So, according to me, this shouldn't be the case because 1, 2, 3, something like that. So, so this is broadly like notes that I made for myself, which is questions that can be asked and what are my answers going to be. And this even covers DAF, which is for me chemical engineering, management, IRS, ICLS, everything, whatever you have done till now. So the preparation broadly is to read newspapers. For current affairs, 70% of the time read current affairs, understand, make notes on it. The 30% is going to be spending on your DAP, which is your hobbies, your achievements, then your sport activities and your leadership positions. How has that helped you? So just broadly, if you want to see it, this is interview prep. So when you come to interview stage, you'll have a lot of mock interviews where you will go. A lot of them will guide you on how better you can do better in your interview. So this is broadly about whatever is the 10-day, 15 days leading up to that and what are current affairs that were important there. Okay, so broadly we come to whatever I had to cover. This language paper, so for me personally, I didn't have a lot of guidance in Sanskrit. Like I took up Sanskrit because I did it till 12th and I thought it was a way to connect with the language. I know Telugu, Hindi properly very well. I can read and write. But this was just because I was like somebody wanted to take a challenge. Like I might as well have another language and I would be able to write an exam. So I didn't have guidance. So what I did was get 4-5 papers solved from somebody, like somebody I met on the internet. They solved the paper and they gave me. And then I made my own short notes, which was of grammar. So I think this is something that everybody who's writing a language paper should do now, because language paper is also getting on the tougher side in general. Like even if it's just to pass 70-80 marks, you should be able to do the broad base work, which is spent the 10 days leading up to that paper. You should spend 1 hour every day, which is 10 hours. So broadly make notes for grammar, which is 40 marks in every paper. Apart from that, do 5-6 reading comprehensions over 6 days. And I think that should broadly cover you and get you to 120 broadly, because reading comprehension I think is around 100 marks in that paper and grammar is 40 marks. You should get to 100 because reading comprehension normally people score. So that's broadly about language paper. And okay, so broadly I'm summarizing the mistakes I have done, and for first timers these are mistakes you should avoid. So one, being a material collector, I have done it, and whatever I have bought I've only read 10% of it. So please know why you're buying something, and please read it multiple times. Don't buy material, because it's a waste of space and it's ultimately even waste of time for you and waste of money also. So please don't be a material collector. The second is if you're buying a test series or if you're buying some course, please do like an analysis on why you need it and when you need it. For example, mains test series. If you are sure that your prelims is covered, you buy your mains test series in February and give the exams. But if you are still working on prelims, I would recommend that you take that test series after you've given prelims. You will still have 100 days and you can give 30 tests very comfortably. So please make sure that you don't buy in a haste. Third is about examination. Please always come with a couple of attempts. You cannot come into this examination thinking I'll give 1 attempt and I'm out. Don't be hasty. This examination needs at least, on a statistical scale, like if you have to draw a normal curve, 3 attempts are bare minimum for anybody to come into the list at any rank. Forget whatever rank. So please remember that, and always have a number of attempts in your mind. Like this will be 2 or this will be 3, and it can maximum stretch by 1 more, but please have it in your mind that you shouldn't go above and beyond. And if you are going, you take it with a job or you do it with a course, like you're doing a master somewhere or something. You should have an avocation after a couple of attempts. Coming to the fourth, failure, how you deal with failure. I believe this examination with 12 lakhs applying and 1,000 people getting in here, there are way too many people who are going to see failure. Even in the 1,000, I believe there are almost 600, 650 who are going to write the examination again. Even rank 86 is going to probably sit and write the examination again. So please, when you see failure, see it in a point of view such that you're not failing this examination. You're not failing this examination. You just do not clear it. If you're not clearing it, that's not failure. It's just the examination is tough. So please have a very realistic view that failure or how you're seeing failure is not failure at all. And if you think that is failure, it is not going to be final. There are a lot of people who are not under the list and who are doing much better. And there are people who come into the list and they haven't done as much. So it's always going to be a very long-term game. It's not going to be a game that you come into this examination, you clear it, and you suddenly your life is different. It's not the case. And fifth one, everybody has a different journey. I'm going to accept that I've been jealous of so many people who cleared the examination, thinking they've done it at such a young age, and where am I? Why am I not able to do it? It's a very normal feeling to have. I'm sure a lot of us might face it, and it's okay to feel that. The point of view that you should have is everybody has a different journey. Today they might have cleared it, but they might face some other hurdle which I might not be facing, or I might face a different hurdle than them. So please see that everybody has an extreme different journey, and nobody has a same destination path. Somebody clears this examination at 22, somebody at 27, somebody at 33. Everybody has a different trajectory, and everybody will be doing different things. So ultimately, this is a view that you should have, that you are not comparing yourself to anyone. You are just comparing yourself to your performance. My 3 mark sheets, I am comparing myself to how did I improve. That's it. That is my journey. I am not comparing myself to rank 1. That is a different story. Coming to 7, there are many people who might tell us, I had a couple of friends who told me, buy this examination, you might not be able to clear it, everything. Like, we will have people who will say that. So you should know, with a pinch of salt, you should know whose words you value and whose words you do not value. Please take those words with a pinch of salt. There might be people who might be very realistic in assessing us, saying you might not be able to do it. But our goal should be, okay, that person thinks so, but I can prove them otherwise because I know myself. Something like that. So please be very realistic. In the same time, take constructive criticism. When you get back your mains answer copies, your idea is not to be with an ego that, okay, this person is just somebody who has probably just written mains and once or twice and is correcting my paper. That's not the point. Your idea is to be able to take feedback in a very constructive way. If he has written, please write something. Or please write a fundamental right. Please write a fundamental duty. Your idea is to take that feedback. Your idea is not to take a feedback who says your handwriting is bad. You can't do anything about your handwriting. Can anybody do anything in 100 days? It is impossible. I think it's realistically impossible. There are people who have changed, but it's very difficult because the examination is such that you're writing continuously for 3 hours. Your handwriting is very difficult to change. So some of these should be very realistic, and you take constructive criticism. I personally was not able to take constructive criticism well for essay, and you see how I had to take 1 whole year to get back to the score. Maybe I could have done it much earlier. So please take constructive criticism. Another thing for people in service, this is mostly maybe because this is being recorded. Some people, when we are in service, we have a lot of guilt that we are not able to do justice to how much government is investing in us, and at the same time trying to write this examination again. So I think I didn't do justice as much. So this is just my humble request to whenever you people get into service, please try to balance it, because government at the end of the day is investing in you. So I didn't do it, and I wish a lot of people do it. Like, they're able to manage their training and write this examination again. Please take an optimal call there. And also please take care of health. Being overweight or obese, these are things that are not just a physical thing, it's also a long-term hazard for people. So please make sure when you are putting on weight or something, you go for walks, you take an active interest in your health. 40-45 minutes, you exercise, nothing is changing in your life. You do it every day, you're much more mentally stronger, and you're much more capable of handling the stress that comes with it. So I think with this, so ultimately this is the idea that I wanted to convey, which is we must do our best, and at the end of the day, UPSC is just an exam. At the end of the day, what separates you and me is luck. That's it. Broadly, that's luck. This examination is of luck. You're still giving this examination because you believe this is a means to do better, but this is not the only means. So when you think your examination perspective from this point of view, you'll do much better. Also, please, when you do this examination, try to do it in 1 attempt and be out. You shouldn't be taking attempts like me forever. When you give your first attempt, it should be your best attempt. That's it. Like, you put your maximum effort and you have no regrets. Okay, the other part will come once you see your mark sheets and you think these are areas I can improve. That's secondary, but please do your best in your first attempt. So with this, I broadly wish you, like, this is broadly where I'm going to stop. I wish you all the best. I hope I see a lot of you come into the services and say, hello ma'am, I've seen you back then, and I'd be so much more happy to see you in services. So yeah, wishing you all the very best, and I'm sure all of you will do very good. Yeah, any broad questions from anyone? Just how many more questions can we take? Okay, any questions? One, 2 questions, that's it. Okay. Geography and economy, mind maps. I did mind maps only for essay. So I haven't done this. Please make short notes, and I did those sources, right? From there only make short notes. That's all I have done. You book source, mock test. That's it. 2 sources. Nothing above beyond that. Don't do more materials. PT365 is one material every aspirant does. So please just do that. See, this is about elimination and how better you get at it. Once you keep doing mocks, I told you to do error logs, right? So over a period of time, you get better at doing it. It's a very instinctive thing. So please invest it in 15, 20 mocks and see it for yourself. You'll be able to figure that out. Topper copies, topper notes. I mentioned Dhatri Reddy ma'am, and I mentioned even Gunjita Agarwal ma'am's copies. She was last year topper. This year topper we have Medha Anand ma'am. You could check her copies also. I didn't understand your question. So whatever you're talking about, whatever I spread, those flashcards, prelims. Huh. See, that depends. I wanted to stick to main syllabus. I didn't want to go to that macro level of my. I didn't have the time. If you have the time, please consider it. But I think this syllabus, if you take this and remember at least 5-10 main words from that, whatever macro document, you'll be able to do your justice. I need one last, yeah. I mentioned my strategy, which was I had core notes and I enriched it with topper copies, and every attempt I wrote 6 to 8 tests. And every test I used to see the top. So whatever this topper copy in that test, I used to take their copy and copy whatever thinkers they have written or mind maps, like a small diagram what they have drawn or something like that. I used to add them into my notes and revise them in the end. That's it. That's all my strategy was for sociology. I think you asked. Okay. See, that's what I mentioned. For introductions and conclusions, please use SDGs. For paper 1, you will utilize SDGs again. For paper 2, please utilize case laws as said in such a case law, as said by so and so. For international relations, you will utilize whatever is in the news. Or somebody has said, like for example, foreign affairs minister has said some statement. Or for example, even prime minister said something like this is not an era of war or something. So statements that you think are important, please use them in your introductions and conclusions. For paper 3, I mentioned data points. Please utilize data points from our budget, economy survey and so on. That is the way. For daily current affairs, read newspaper, read explained, editorials if you can. A lot of editorials are not important for you. What is happening in Telangana, these are not important. Editorials about what is happening in the world, education, skill development, correlated to the topics, and see that. So I used to do that every day. At the end of the month, I used to revise the entire questions, which is almost 10 questions, 30 days, 300 questions at the end of month, one revision. Every day it was 10 questions. So one app, one compilation, one newspaper. That's it. Okay. I prepared separately. As in, I did my mains till March, and then March onwards I started for prelims separately. March, April, May. 3 months for May prelims. Until then, I had like what, November, December, Jan, Feb, March. 5 months for mains. That was my second attempt. I saw my interest. So, way of choosing an optional, if anybody has a question, that is to take a last year copy, last year question paper, see the questions and see what you think you're able to answer. So I saw both sociology and anthropology in the year 2019 paper for 2020. In that, I remember seeing in sociology something on Me Too movement. And I thought, okay, I can write an answer even without knowing sociology. That, okay, Me Too movement is something that has affected women. So broadly, I was able to write an answer in my head. So I thought, okay, if I read something more about it, I'll be able to write a whole 150 pager. So that was my decision. So this is something I recommend. If you're choosing between optionals, pick a question paper, be able to see a question and think, okay, I will be interested to write 150 words on this. For example, if you're taking anthropology, you should be interested to be able to write about human species or cultural anthropology, what happened in linguistics and so on. You should, if you see that question, you should be like, okay, I can write 150 words, or I'm interested to write 150 words. That's a way to choose. Approach for CSAT. So approach for CSAT is do mocks. Like I said, there are 6 weeks. take every Sunday, and if you think you need more than, okay, please, if you are from humanities background, do more than 6 mocks, do at least 10, 15. If you're in from engineering background, do 6 mocks at least. More than that, obviously. 6 mocks, do it, see if you're at least getting to 80, and you ensure that your score is being maintained. If you're, after that, analyze your paper on where you're doing bad, not where you're doing good. So if you're doing bad in maths, number systems, or permutation combination, pick that area and take notes. Notes as in you'll find something for online resources being circulated on YouTube or something on Telegram. Please see channels for that. I have a Telegram channel. I'll be sharing if I see anything for CSAT. But that's broadly. Please do mocks for CSAT. That's the strategy. For me, that has been about having an app. So I used to see every day if I'm clocking in 7-8 hours, I was very happy about it. So that was my motivator going forward. But even I have had days in middle where I would be like, today I'm not going to touch any book. So if I did 15 days, I would take a day break and think, okay, today is a day I want to relax. And getting back to it. Or some days I used to think if I give a 3-hour mock, my whole day is done today. So I won't be doing anything else. If I give a 2-hour mock of my prelims and revise it, that is it. I'm not going to study anything more. So please figure out a way that works for you. Because every day you cannot pull out 8 hours. Your goal is that 100 days of mains to prelims, you should be able to pull 15 hours every day. But the rest of the time, please juggle, like some days 8 hours, some days 3-4 hours. It should be in such a way that you're able to tell your mind that yes, I have done my best for today, which is I have given an examination. I'm more than happy. I don't want to do more than that. So please see it based on your this thing. One last question, maybe. I think the time's up. One last question. Anybody from the back? I have not had one question also from the back. Okay. Yeah. Every day if you give a mock and you're doing nothing else. I didn't do anything else. I was giving mocks. I was done with the syllabus. Yeah, 100 days, 100 mocks. So that's almost 3 months, 10 days. That's it. Yes. I used to open this. I bought Vision test series for first 2 attempts. Third attempt, I didn't buy it. First 2 attempts, 30 tests from there. You will almost find a lot of resources there, and I've used them. You can also utilize free resources. They're available on Telegram channels also. Apart from that, today we have free open tests going on. So today almost 10-15 coaching centers are doing that. So you can probably take that. I suggest that you do across different coaching centers because that will give you a way to judge yourself better. A better law of averages is always that you do from different places and compare it. That's a suggestion. So that's it. I think I thank everybody here for patiently listening. I've seen 2-3 people sleep there, but I think I'm more or less okay with it. So I was able to at least get somebody to sleep. That's also an achievement for me at this point. But I thank you.